Hi again. So let's pull everything together. And I'm going to be super high level in this video because I want to dive deeper into some of these topics in this week's forums and Facebook group. So in the last two videos, I talked about where to start with data and how to use data in a holistic way. And then we dived into audience research and using the funnel discipline to apply to your product plans. So throughout product management, or even if you're applying product principles to any newsroom project, you're never really done with data analysis. Data plays a constant role in product thinking, from ideation to goal setting and prioritization to measuring success. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about testing, measuring, and iterating on your plan. First, a little about testing methods. The most common methods of testing product initiatives are A/B testing and multivariate testing. I'm sure you're familiar with the basics, but just in case, A/B testing is a method used to test which version of a feature or tactic performs the best for an intended goal. For example, let's say you want to test a new homepage design for your website. Your site's visitors see one version or another, and depending on the goals you've set to indicate which one is a success, the winner is then shown as the result, and you can determine which version of your design is most effective. Multivariate testing, like A/B testing, also compares different versions of a site or feature, but with a few more variables mixed in. This test is helpful when you want to understand how different variables interact or affect one another. For example, you could test multiple elements of a redesign, such as images, layouts, or colors, simultaneously instead of comparing two different versions of one element in an A/B test. In this module's readings, I'll include some resources for diving deeper into both A/B testing and multivariate testing that could be useful for beginners and even experts. Now let's talk about pulling together your case for a product plan based on your data analysis, audience research, and, when possible, testing some of your theories. Depending on your project, I urge you to start with a minimally viable product, or an MVP, which is a term made popular by Eric Ries and the Lean Startup movement. This is basically a form of the product with sufficient features, but not the entire bells and whistles. That's because the idea is to continue to build out the product after getting feedback and analyzing data along the way as you introduce new features and elements of the project. And sometimes that means you'll iterate or pivot on a plan if you don't see the results you originally expected. But fortunately, because you didn't invest all of your resources into building the entire plan all at once, you're able to afford to change direction or make an iteration that you hadn't otherwise planned. In this week's list of readings, I'll post an article about a helpful process called story mapping that can help you figure out the scope of your MVP. And as a reminder, you'll start any plan with a SMART goal and KPIs that get you close to that goal. And then you'll use a mix of quantitative and qualitative data and research about your audiences to build a case. And as you identify your MVP, it's helpful to ask yourself the following questions. First, what do I need to know about how my audiences use this product to inform my next steps? And what are my KPIs for this MVP exactly? Or what determines success? And what data will I need to collect? Or what feedback will I need to gather to measure this? And finally, what determines failure? But failure isn't necessarily a bad thing. By answering these questions, you should have enough information to help you make an important decision, whether to continue building out the plan or pivoting to something else if you didn't see the results you really expected. Throughout it all, you'll use data and feedback from your audiences to continue iterating. Think of it as a loop. Even when you think you've reached your final complete product phase, you should always be measuring and adapting to meet your audience's needs and the needs of your business. And that's because the role of data in the product process is constant. The most effective product thinkers are always measuring and analyzing and looking for the next iteration to better serve their audiences. I hope this video gives you an overview of that process. And while this is meant to be very high level, I'd love to dive deeper into some of these topics with you in this week's forums and Facebook group. Let's talk more about methods for data analysis and audience research and defining and scoping your MVP. I'll post some more articles to dive into and some questions to start some of these discussions, but please ask me anything you'd like or tell me where you'd like to talk more. I really enjoyed working with you throughout this course, and I look forward to talking more in our forums and Facebook group. Thank you.